United Arab Emirates by Jake, Jordan, Christopher, Donald, and Joshua. A lot of people know the UAE is a large producer of oil and natural gas, but do you know just how big of a player they are in this industry and how heavily their economy depends on these resources? In this presentation, we will discuss the background, the production, the exploration, the enhanced oil recovery methods, their importing and exporting business, environmental effects, and diversifying the economy and energy resources. The UAE is a small country located north of Saudi Arabia and south of the Persian Gulf. It borders Qatar and Oman. The national per capita GDP is $48,158. It is also separated into 7 emirates, the largest being Abu Dhabi. While the oil and gas industry is regulated by each emirate separately, it is largely managed by the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, or ADNOC. The UAE has the 7th largest oil reserve and the 7th largest natural gas reserve. The oil industry as of 2009 stands at producing 3 million barrels per day. By 2018, they hope to increase that number to 3.5 million barrels per day through the use of EORs and offshore oil fields. The gas industry has 5 current refining plants and is able to produce 620,000 barrels per day. They hope to increase that number by investing $3 billion into a new refining complex with a capacity of 250,000 barrels per day, as well as making modifications to current existing plants. The UAE has a complication in the production of natural gas, as the country produces mostly sulfur-rich gas. This gas is unable to be sold as is, and in the past was often flared due to its expensive treatment costs. If the UAE hopes to increase their production, they need to be able to produce the gas they drill, and to do so cheaply. As it stands, sulfur-rich gas only produces 540 cubic feet per 1,000 cubic feet they put in. In order to produce these 540 cubic feet, they use a process called gas sweetening, which runs the sulfur-rich sour gas through an absorber unit and a regenerator unit that separates the sulfur into hydrogen sulfide. The hydrogen sulfide is then routed into a Claus process that converts it into elemental sulfur and a natural gas product that is able to be sold. As technology advances, the amount of gas that is able to be produced increases, as well as bringing the cost of treatment down considerably. The UAE has already invested $9 billion into the new Habshan 5 refining plant, which has an expected capacity of 7 billion cubic feet per day, and is focused mainly on the production of sour gas. Oil exploration in the UAE has almost ground to a halt due to the lack of inland oil fields that they are able to exploit. The solution to this problem is to develop offshore oil fields, but unfortunately for them, they are small and scattered. The development of these new offshore wells also help to supplement the lost oil production from pre-existing wells, but are nowhere near on the same scale and have a much lower producing capacity. The UAE, in an effort to increase their oil production, has turned to enhanced oil recovery methods, or EORs, the most common of which is gas injection, which relies on injecting a gas such as CO2 into the well to reduce the oil viscosity, which allows the crude oil to be extracted easily. The second of which is miscible solvent. This process uses dilute solutions such as alkaline or caustic solutions, which are added to the well in order to reduce surface tension and allow for an increase in production. The third method, the thermal method, focuses on heating the oil in order to reduce its viscosity, or vaporize the oil in order to decrease the mobility ratio and increase the permeability of the oil. The Dolphin pipeline, which runs from Qatar to Oman, is responsible for 47% of all of the UAE's natural gas imports. The UAE also imports very little crude oil. The Abu Dhabi crude oil pipeline is responsible for transporting 1.5 million barrels per day to the Asian markets. The UAE also has 6 major export terminals, the largest of which being the port in Fujairah, which is also the easiest to access due to it bypassing the Strait of Hormuz, which has many risks associated with it. They also export very little gas and still export large quantities of crude oil, especially to Japan and the Asian market. The oil and gas industry in the UAE is not without its faults. The burning of fossil fuels releases large quantities of CO2, which can cause ozone depletion and cause global warming. Also, the use of natural gas flaring releases many known harmful chemicals into the atmosphere. Another detrimental effect to the environment is the use of EORs, which can cause serious health issues for the local residents. When these methods are implemented, large quantities of brine are brought to the surface, and they contain heavy metals and other radioactive substances which are known carcinogens. The UAE, as of now, relies on oil and gas as the main source of all the nation's revenue. Since the UAE heavily relies on oil, the nation has decided it needed to diversify its economy and is led by the Abu Dhabi Emirates. A major development is the formation of the Khalifa Industrial Zone Abu Dhabi, or KIZAD for short, which when complete in 2030 will be one of the Middle East's largest industrial free trade and non-free trade zones. The KIZAD's objective is to attract foreign investment and create jobs for skilled Emirates. According to the KIZAD's official website, KIZAD will be expected to contribute 15% of Abu Dhabi's non-oil GDP. Abu Dhabi is also attempting to diversify its energy resources as well, so the country's electricity and other technologies are not strictly fueled by oil and natural gas. The UAE is developing nuclear reactors to power their electric grid. Other endeavors include the Masdar City project, which is supposed to be the world's first zero-carbon city, the Sirbani Yas wind farm, and the Shams 1 solar plant. Today we have discussed many aspects of the UAE. We've discussed how each Emirates is run independently, but is mainly headed by the ADNOC. The UAE has the seventh largest oil and gas reserves. Oil is the major source of the nation's revenue. Fortunately, they produce mostly sulfur-rich gas. They implement EORs and offshore drilling operations to keep production of oil up. They import and export most of their oil and gas through pipelines, and they're taking many steps in order to free themselves from their dependence on oil.